Good evening, friends. My name is Souvik, and you're watching Souvik Says. It's time for another episode of Technoledge. So let's start. Alright, friends, so what we're going to talk about today is Android cleaner apps and whether they are really useful. To cut it short, the answer is no. That is, until and unless you are running a version of Android that is maybe a Eclair or a Froyo. In other words, only if you live under a rock. To go deeper into it, we'll first take a look at what are the various unique selling proposition of each of these apps, as well as classify them into four broad segments. The first segment would be those apps that claim to save your RAM, or rather optimize your RAM. Now what these apps does in the background is that they identify the RAM hogging apps and close them. However, what happens is, once you close those apps tend to restart again, which in turn causes you a lot of battery drain. Android by itself has a brilliant and robust memory management system. To help you understand that with an example, let's assume that your RAM is a bucket and the apps that you're using would fill it up by a certain margin. Assuming my bucket is a 2 gigabyte bucket and I'm currently running three apps that take up say 1.8 gigabytes of that space. Now I want to load another app that needs another gigabyte. Now I cannot exceed that 2 gigabyte of storage. So what Android will do by itself is understand what are those three apps running and which one of them can it close to free up that 1 gigabyte of required space. So it will not blatantly shut down all the running apps, but smartly identify that particular app or group of apps that it needs to close to free up that 1 gigabyte of required memory. The next segment of apps would be the cleaning apps. Now what this segment of apps tend to do is, or rather they claim to do, is that they will free up unused or rather not required bits of memory in your phone. What they typically do in the background is look at the cache memory that the apps create and they clear that. In addition to that, when we uninstall certain apps, they tend to leave some amount of data behind, which we term as residual memory. It tends to clear that up as well. However, in order to clear these kind of residual data or the cache data, a standalone app is not a requirement. Is go to your settings, go to the storage option, select the option that says cached data, and then hit OK once the clear cache data prompt comes up. That should take care of all your residual data as well as cached data problems. The third type of apps in our list are the antivirus apps. What these typically do is, number one, prevents you from installing potentially harmful apps or malwares. And number two, in the unfortunate event of your phone getting stolen or lost, it helps you track the location of the phone. Now, Android in itself has certain mechanisms that helps you do both of these tasks. For example, any app that is uploaded onto the Google Play Store would automatically be checked for malware and blocked in case there is potentially something that is identified as a malware. In terms of locating your phone if it is misplaced, the Android Device Manager is an excellent option for you to do exactly that. The only caveat is if you are used to sideloading apps into your phone, or rather using sources other than Google Play Store to install apps on your phone, which is the only place where there is a potential for malwares or other harmful software to creep into your phone and cause serious damage. Last but not the least would be the battery saver apps. I'm sure many of you would have one such app installed on your phone and you go clicking on that at a particular interval, hoping that your battery life gets transformed. However, that's a myth and I'm here to bust it. To enhance your battery life, you would need to reduce the energy demand from the operating system as well as the apps and services that are running on your phone. Now, in order to achieve this, you would actually need to take control of the way Android operating system is running, which is not possible until and unless you are rooted, which most of us are not. So effectively, the battery saver app that you have on your phone does not do anything. However, from a background working perspective, what it tends to do is something very similar to what the RAM management apps does. It identifies the apps that are drawing a lot of power and closes them in the background. However, as is the case with the RAM management apps, these battery hogging apps tend to restart in the background, thereby causing more damage because it needs more power in order for those closed apps to start rather than if we leave them running in the background. An alternative to manually managing your battery performance would be to go into the settings, go to the options under battery and manually identify that particular app or group of apps that are causing the most battery drain. You can then manually force close each of those apps one by one, or if you're absolutely sure that you're not going to use that particular app, you can go ahead and uninstall it altogether. A word of caution is you have to be very sure that you're not tinkering with a system app. So anything that says Android OS, Android system, something, or even Google Play services is something that I would not recommend you to tinker with. Over and above that, or rather if your phone or your ROM that you're running has an option for you to filter out system apps and just see the other apps, just go take a look at them and start closing or uninstalling them, and that should to a certain extent help you extend your battery life, as opposed to running a battery saver which does nothing but increases the battery drain. Alright guys, I think that should be it for today. Give it a thumbs up if you liked the video, a thumbs down if you didn't, but please go ahead and put in your comments as to what is it that you liked or disliked about the video. Also, if you like the content that we are dishing out on this channel, please consider subscribing. You can also connect with us through Facebook, Twitter and Google+. Links to them provided in the description below. I will see you guys in the next video. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.